Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Hunts Valley Permaculture. Today I'd like to pot up some flower seedlings and start some veggie seeds. I'm going to be making my own potting mix for that, and then I thought I'd show you what's starting up in the front veggie garden. But first let's get to the potting mix. As part of my potting mix, I use sharp sand. So I'm going to head down the road and see if I can find some. According to Jeff Lawton, my PDC teacher, sharp sand is the sediment that you can find on the inside bend of rivers and creeks. And I always thought it was more like a beach sand or a sandpit sand, but the sand that I saw on a video recently showed it looked quite dirty. And the idea is that it's actually just sort of rough, sandy sediment within that dirt. And the stuff in my little creek that flows along this valley will be just fine. So I'm going to give it a try. Just over this little bridge here, we've got a bend in this creek, and I had a look the other day and I reckon we can get just what we need from in here. This little creek can get up quite high, and it's when it's high that it drops the heaviest sediment up here. So just here is a pile of coarse sand. It's quite gravelly, and you need that roughness to help with drainage in your potting mix. So I'm just going to take a bit of this, not too much, sort of like half a bag, and that should do me for a little while with making potting mix. You can tell it's really sandy. When you push the shovel in, it just goes straight in. I've gathered all the ingredients for my potting mix. So I've got my sharp sand, which we just grabbed. I've also grabbed a bucket load of mushroom compost, which I have for the garden. I've got some beautiful worm castings that I've made from the worms in my worm farm, and I'll leave a link to a video showing you how I harvest that. And I've got some coconut coir, which I've bought. Now this is all I could buy locally. Usually I can buy it in a big compressed block that you add water to and you fluff it up and you get a bigger volume, and it's a lot cheaper. So this is going to dictate how much of the potting mix I can make today, because it's in proportions. We need 2 parts coconut coir, 1 part sand, 1 part worm castings, and 2 parts of a compost. Now use the best compost you can. The mushroom compost is all I've got going at the moment, so that's what I'm using. But if you've got your homemade compost, that's probably better to use. So first up to our tub, I'm going to add in the sharp sand. Now it's got to be half the volume of this, so not too much. Then I'll add in equal parts of the worm castings. Now 2 parts of the mushroom compost, and finally the coconut coir. You can see they're nice and fluffy. All that's left to do now is just to give this a really good mix. I'll just pull out any big sticks or anything at the time as well, and break up any lumps. The potting mix is all mixed now, and it looks beautiful. Should have lots of nutrition, good drainage and moisture retention. So we can get on with potting up our seedlings now. I've never been great at starting seeds, so I'm using heat mats and grow lights here in my bathroom to see if I can change that. And my first lot of seeds are going pretty well. They're flower seeds, which I don't often get to. I kind of run out of time. And I've started a bit early this time, so hopefully I'll get them in the ground and they'll be successful. I've got chrysanthemum, sweet alyssum, chamomile, some hollyhock, zinnias. I do have a few veg. This is Asian greens, some collie and some mini wombok. I want to start some more veggies today, but we're going to get these little seedlings into pots so they can grow on a bit further before I get them out into the garden. For using the potting mix, I think it's a really good idea to have it well moistened. Now this is quite damp already, so I don't think I'll have to add too much in the way of moisture, just a little bit. And I'll stir it through and see how we go. Brought my little seedlings outside to pot up. Now these are my little flower seedlings, which I'm just going to pot up into this size and put them under the grow lights once again. These are my veggie seedlings and they're actually looking pretty good. They've got plenty of roots coming through the bottom, so I might start the hardening off process with these by first moving them into my little greenhouse. So first of all, I'm going to fill these trays with my potting mix. Fill that right up, and I'm just going to prise out these little plants and pop them in, and I'll fill this up for some veggie seeds that I've got that I'm planning to put in here. Now, first impressions of this potting mix that I've made is that it's quite heavy, but I'll give it a go, and we can only improve on it, I suppose, but who knows, it might surprise us and do okay. I think I might have added a bit too much moisture to this mix, so I might get the dryer lot and stir that in. Chuck some over the top. I figure by perfecting some potting mix for myself, it's going to save a lot of plastic and a lot of expense and just a lot of travel time for all this soil for our seeds, and it just makes you more self-sufficient and actually more resilient into the future. Now I'll just firm these ones down as well. I'm going to just take these into my greenhouse and pot them up in there because it might be a lot easier than doing it out here. I'll start with my little hollyhocks. Now I like to just put the seeds into these little trays first because you don't waste spaces here. See, I put about 10 seeds into this little tray and only about 7 came up, so it hasn't wasted any space. So I can sort of fill this tray completely. I've only got so much space in under my grow lights at this point. I don't want to have to buy more. And this will help maximise the space. I'll just make my little holes first, and then we're ready to get these beautiful little seedlings in. Now, I just try and carefully, maybe if I tip the tray out, well, that didn't go to plan, but it'll still help me get these seedlings. Quite a good root system in there. Now, I did mention that I'm not great at seedlings and raising plants to really great healthy plants. So this is just me showing you what I'm doing, and certainly not a how-to, once again. I've actually decided to put some into these trays here. Now some of these little roots are a lot bigger than I had expected, so I've just filled this little tray up with my potting mix, and I'm going to add some into there. Makes me want to put them all in here now, but I might run out of space in my grow lights. Now this little one will be fine in my other tray, I reckon. Those roots are tiny, so that's perfect in here. This one could have probably gone into this bigger tray, but it's in there now. Alright, that's our hollyhocks done. Next we might do these zinnias, which I haven't grown before, so I'm quite excited about these ones. I'll get these out of the tray and see what these root systems are like. That's better. Okay, it's looking like they've got fairly good roots as well. So we might have to do another mix of the larger cell size and use some of the smaller ones here. Yeah, I think we'll get a better plant if we put that into a larger pot size. I'll have to remember to label those. Okay, so there was 3 little zinnias, so I've put them in this tray along with the original hollyhocks. This tray will be perfect for what I've got left here. These are really small little seedlings at this point, so we'll get the sweet alyssum done next. I've decided to leave the chamomile. There's not many germinated at this point, and I think they're still coming, so I don't want to disturb what's still growing. And also the marigold, I mean there's a few good ones, but there's still some just germinating, so again I'll leave those for the moment. Just get these out of our way and put them outside for a water. Unfortunately my little support tray isn't large enough to really accommodate this, so we have to just sort of fit it on the best I can. With these little ones, I'm just going to dig in and see if I can carefully pry them out. It's a really small little root, so these trays are actually perfect for these ones. Probably left the other seedlings a little bit too long to be doing this transplanting. What I want to do is get a lot of these flower varieties established in my garden so that they start to self-seed, and I'll get volunteers year after year. But the initial part is getting them established well enough so that can happen. I don't want to be, doing this every year to get flowers. I prefer these guys just happen on their own, but it might take a little bit of effort to get to that point. One thing I'm not great at is labelling things properly, so I'm trying to improve on that a bit. So now we've got some chrysanthemums, and I'll try and dig them out again and see what we've got. I only had 7 germinated. I only put a few seeds in. That's all of the little flower seedlings I'm going to pot up for now. I'm going to get these watered and get them back under the grow lights. Now to get some seeds planted. Actually, I might just give that a bit of a water first. And I'll put these little veggie seedlings in the greenhouse just to acclimatise to here before hardening them off outside. Now, for the seeds, I have started some seeds straight in the garden, which I'll show you in a minute, but there are a few that I'm going to just get started in these little trays. I'm going to do quite a few of these Asian greens. It's a mix, so there's kind of random plants, so I'm going to plant out quite a few of those. I've got spinach to get in. I do love some beetroot in the ground, and I'll get started on some spring onions. I think those ones look like the spinach. Brassica seeds are doubling up a bit. I can thin them out down the track if I need to. Alright, it's always a challenge getting the other seeds back into the pack again. Now I'm just going to press those gently in. It's very, very damp potting mix. I'm going to sprinkle some more potting mix over the top at the end. Next is my usual 3 different types of beetroot that I'm going to put 3 in each of these spots if I've got enough seeds. Oh, yep. I like to grow beetroot as clumps, so I'll put 3 in each. I like beetroot because you can harvest the greens when they're young plants, but I love to pickle beetroot. And I also like roasting beetroot too. And it makes a great dip. Now we've just got to remember to label them before I forget. So we've got beet golden. It should be obvious once they start to grow. But if they don't grow, you need to know what they were. Now I'm not starting my warm season veggies just yet. I'll probably do that in another month's time. It's just a bit early in this region at the moment. If the weather kind of is usual, if it's warmer, well, I might have missed it a bit, but I'll start them within the next 4 weeks or so. So I'll get these ones going first, and then I'll start like on my chilies and eggplants, which need the longer growing season. Now, some spring onions. I'll again put a few in each little cell. And now I'm just going to plant some spinach. This is home saved seeds. So I'm going to do a couple of rows of those home saved seeds. You can see there's all the debris in there as well. I'll press down all these little seeds and then a bit of a cover of potting mix over the top, and I'll put them back in under the grow lights. Something else I've got started is some potatoes. I'm leaving these to chit, get these little sprouts, and I'm going to plant these ones in the ground. I do have the ones in my grow bags, but who knows, the frosts might kill them off still, so I've got to have a backup plan. So I've saved all these potatoes that were actually green, and I'm going to plant those out into one of my garden beds. And next to my potatoes, I've got some sweet potatoes. Instead of starting in water, I'm starting to grow slips in potting mix to see how that goes. I've got some starting to grow already, so hopeful this method will go well. I'm just covering it with this plastic. There's still some air that can get through, but it does create a humid environment in there. So nice and warm to help develop these sweet potato slips. Now that we've got those all sorted, I'll just show you the front garden and the few things I've done out here. My artichokes are just starting to come up. I've usually enjoyed these as a pickle, but I've had them just steamed with a salad and they've been quite delicious. A lot of my beds have been cleared and there's nothing in them as yet. Next year I hope to start cover crops off really early in these beds, because you can grow your soil a lot better if there's plants in the ground with roots feeding the soil. So I haven't done that this year, but I hope to in future years. What I have done recently is just top dress a couple of these beds that really needed it with some of the mushroom compost. I've planted pea seeds here quite thickly, and over here I've planted a row of onions. So with the onions, I have planted them right next to that lower rung of this little mesh panel, with the hopes that it's too close to this for the birds to really damage it. So I'll see how it goes. I've also included in this garden some daikon radish and turnips and breakfast radish. Just here I've recently planted some snow peas seedlings that I've grown with the help of my little grow lights inside, and they're just adjusting. As I'm filming in the front yard, all I can hear is a buzz of bees. We've got the wattle trees coming into flower and it's alive with bees. Just here I dropped a seed head of leek, and all these leek seedlings have come up. So I'm going to dig some of these up and transplant them to other areas of the garden. Nature kind of tells you when it's time to grow. Here's another little batch of seeds just starting to germinate and sprout. The bees are also enjoying some of these daikon radish flowers as well. This guy's loaded. Another plant volunteering in my garden is parsnips. I have transferred some of these into my carrot patch, but I'm going to leave these growing as they are and hopefully get some nice parsnips. Also growing as volunteers is sorrel, which the seeds have blown everywhere. So I've got 1,000 sorrel coming up, but that's okay. I don't mind any of these greens that you can eat because I can always feed it to the chickens. I've got my broad beans just starting to kick in. I think this one here will soon be in flower. I will need to get some support around these guys so that the winds don't blow them down. Now for just a quick look at the other veg that I've got growing in the front garden. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now. I nearly forgot one more thing. I've got some echinacea to plant. I just needed to keep that in the fridge for about a week, so I've done that. So I'm just going to add those to one of those trays. Another thing I'd like to mention is that I've started a Buy Me a Coffee page. Any funds raised on this page I'd like to put towards diversifying my plantings out in the food forest. If you'd like to support me, there is a link in the description, and please leave in the comments any thoughts on trees or plants you think I should be adding to my cool, temperate food forest. Thanks for your support.